back to another episode of Automotivated, and I'm super excited. Today we have big dog here, Mike Risich,
Oh boy.
CEO of Bolt-On Technology. And one of the things that we've actually talked about a lot, and we talk with a lot of shop owners, is what really limits you from being successful as a shop. And a lot of times the success of a shop is limited to just what the owner's capabilities are. So we figured today what we would talk about is really, can your shop run without you, and why it's so important that it does?
Yeah, it's a great question, Shayna. So, it's one that shop owners I know have shared with me over the years that they struggle with. And truthfully, we had the same scenario here at Bolt-On, and the reality of saying, I didn't build this business to just be me. That I needed other people to help me and engage in what we're trying to accomplish. And, I needed to feed them the vision, and
Sure.
ultimately where this wanted to go, where I want Bolt-On to grow to. And how do I then support them with the necessary tools, the coaching, whatever it may take in order for them to operate in a way that doesn't require me here necessarily to help guide them day to day. And I think a lot of shop owners are struggling with that in their journey, and typically because the journey starts with them being a technician at one point.
Sure. And I feel like that's also, a common, I don't know if the right word is struggle or just something that they have to get past, as coming as a technician and having all of this experience. Sometimes they feel like they need to be the most knowledgeable in their shop. And oftentimes that's really the biggest limitation to their success, because they're never going to be able to grow past that.
That's absolute truth, right? So remember, we're working with very talented shop owners who can fix things with their hands, right? And so, of course, they can fix it, right? Bring them a car with a check engine light on, it's going to leave with it off, right? And they should be really proud, because there's very few people in this world that could actually complete that task.
No, we're learning that more and more now.
But the reality is that, like here at Bolt-On as an example, I always like to say that I'm the dumbest guy in the room.
Sure.
I am today too, right? So,
but
the truth is that if you surround yourself with a talented team, right, and you give them the vision and the transparency to understand how to measure, how you're measuring them,
yes,
how they can measure themselves to what success looks like, they can then understand, where they need to raise their hand and ask for help. That is also a culture thing. When you have at the shop, you have a technician who may be stuck with something, they got to know that it's okay for them to ask for help, and that it's being rewarded in a way where they get to learn. Maybe that hands-on owner has that skill, has that tool in their toolbox that they haven't pulled out in a long time, and can loan it to them so that this newer, younger technician may be able to solve that problem. But I think it was Steve Jobs who said, probably the dumbest thing I could ever do is hire a smart, bright person and then sit down and tell them what to do.
Yes.
And the truth of that is that we're always looking for the greatest talents and the greatest people, but sometimes maybe we don't always articulate exactly what we're hoping for them to accomplish.
Sure.
And that's where constant reinforcement of what the vision is for the business is really the precursor to seeing the success of being able to exit from the day-to-day operation and really do a good job of focusing on just the strategic pieces of the business.
Absolutely. And I think, a part that you hit on in that really resonates with me. So you're making sure that you're equipping your team with, the best talent, right? And you're going to have to empower them to make these decisions to help grow the business, to really look at it in ways that, it's not just the day-to-day tasks that they're doing, but what's really helping, in that long-term vision. And a lot of times what it comes down to, and this is something that, we can really relate to here at Bolt-On, is making sure that you have the tools, like you said, the tools in your toolbox to help you achieve these goals. And, even looking at some of the products that Bolt-On has, one of the greatest things is that it helps you create processes that are scalable, that are teachable, that are repeatable, so that way you can actually remove yourself from the day-to-day activities at your shop and know that it's still running at a consistent and progressive pace.
You're absolutely right. And the one, a bull that you miss is predictable.
Yes.
Right. And so if you look at something as simple as would you like fries with that, while it's a very easy phrase to say, McDonald's did a tremendous job of coaching and training their team to ask that every single transaction. And what was the result? They sold more fries, and so, tying that back into bolt-on and what we've done is that when you deploy our solutions and our technology, they create this behavior pattern. And that's what it eventually leads to the point of creating predictability, right? And so the best part about that is they're all measurable,
yes.
Right? So in the McDonald's example, let's say you had two cashiers and one asked every single time and the other one kind of didn't, kind of did. At the end of the day, you can run a report and see the differences. Sure. And that's exactly what you can do with our technology, right? Whether it's the technician in the bay use a mobile manager and do a digital inspection and versus another technician, one's doing 15 pictures, which is our best practice, and the other one is doing 1 picture or 3 pictures. And then when you tally up the dollar amounts, the vehicle owners who are spending with the first technician are spending higher because they see the value in the communication. And that's one of the biggest challenges our users have is in the consistency.
Yes.
And so by creating these policies or procedures or standard operating procedures, you all of a sudden fit this talented team into the role. And so if you're always evolving the role, you then create an opportunity where, as a shop owner, you can step out and you can still measure because you know exactly how the job is supposed to be done. And if you want to be hands-on, that's where you can come in and say, look, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to show you exactly and demonstrate to that new tech or that new service advisor what your expectations are.
Sure.
And listen, everybody wants to live up to expectations, right? It's no different than when you're a child and you want to meet mom or dad's expectations. The same thing is typically true in the workplace.
Sure.
And the ambiguity is the thing that is most difficult. When people aren't clear exactly what success looks like, that's where all of a sudden it becomes a guessing game. The more clear you could be with your team and say, in the case of mobile manager with digital inspection, no, every inspection requires minimum 15 pictures, right? And so it's a very easy, did they do it or did they didn't? When you say, yeah, about 10 to 15, well, I did 10, and so is that not good enough? It is good enough. And so being crystal clear is really the key to that.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about, the importance of building up a good team, the importance of sharing your vision and being very specific in what you want to accomplish, what you expect and your expectations. And then finally equipping your team with the tools to be able to build out these predictable processes so they can continue to run successfully. And that's really one of the biggest things. We understand that you've invested a lot of time into your shop to get it to where it's been successful today. But is that your limitation? Being able to really have your shop move without you, even when you're off the property or removed for a little bit, that's really the growth opportunities that you have.
It absolutely is, and the more systems you can put in place, the easier it becomes for you to kind of take a secondary seat and not be there, and we all want that kind of freedom, right? At some point, especially as entrepreneurs, sometimes we consider that we're slaves to our business, and we refer to it as our other children, and it has a born-on date and everything else that is crazy about running your own gig. But the reality is there's no better thing out there, in my opinion, like the ability to execute on a plan as big as ours, and so some of our users remember when Bolt-on was me, and today there's, hundreds or thousands of shops that I don't even know. But I can't be more proud that they use our technology to help them get where they want to go.
Absolutely. So thank you all for joining us today for another episode of Automotivated. We know that we're automotivated. We want to know if you are too. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.